Welcome to all viewers for an online interactive session. After the response of Words of Wisdom and Gyan Ganga by Dr. Swami, National President of Virat Hindustan Sangam, we at Virat Hindustan Sangam Karnataka now bring to you an online interactive series of Samvada exposing nationalist speakers who speak on topics covering the 5 principles of VHS. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Swami and the national team for encouraging and supporting and bringing this series online for the betterment of our nation. Today, on our first interactive series of
unit,
Live streaming is on.
organized this Samvad by various speakers, and we have our first speaker, Smt.Lakshmi Bayi Nalapat. And today she will be going to be speaking on the significance of the Hindu temple. It's really very good work by the VHS Karnataka for thinking this series in Karnataka on behalf of the VHS Karnataka. So Nikun Shah and his team deserve all praise. So I thank Gopi and other team members for putting this program together, and the technical team of Tejas and others for supporting Tejas, Rakesh, Ishwar and others for supporting this venture. Because as you know, our motto of Virat Hindustan Sangam under Dr. Subramaniam Swami is to educate, empower under this VHS organization. So as part of this series, we have today Smt.Lakshmi Bayi Nalapat, who is going to be speaking as significance of the Hindu temple. I also wish to tell our viewers that last 3 years continuous, Lakshmi Bayi Nalapat has performed a hat trick, that she has been to Kailash and Mansarovar 3 consecutive summers. And so much is a devotion for the cause of the Hindu that she has performed a hat trick. I am not aware of any other devotee who must have done 3 consecutive summers to Kailash and Mansarovar. So with this, request Smt.Lakshmi Bayi Nalapat to please address our viewers of VHS Karnataka in this program Samvada and address our viewers. Thank you. Over to Lakshmi Bayi.
Shri Mahakalyarpanamastu. Namaskaram. First of all, my heartfelt thanks to the VHS Karnataka team and all the technicians of VHS for making this talk possible. Secondly, my personal thanks to Dr. Subramanian Swami, who was instrumental in taking Nalapat and me for the first time to Kailash Mansarovar. That trip is completely unforgettable. And that is the first time I went, after which, thanks to the grace of Kali, I've been able to go twice again. Now, the subject today is a very interesting subject, suggested to me by Mr. Shah, Mr. Nikun Shah. The subject is the significance of temples in Hinduism. So let me first start by defining what a temple is. A temple in our various languages, it is called Kshetram, Ambalam, Devalayam. Kshetram merely means a place, a defined place. Kshetram also, because Sanskrit is a multi-nuanced language, Kshetram also means that which protects you from kshatam or harm. Anbalayam means house of love. Anba is love, kindness, compassion, etc. And you have also Devalayam. Devalayam, the root word is Div. Div means to give happiness. That the house which gives happiness. These are the definitions of the temple. Now let us come to a very basic definition of divinity. Imagine the ancient, the first human beings. It is a woman whose belly suddenly goes bigger and a baby comes out of her. It's a total miracle. That is the first sign of divinity. Another sign of divinity is when a person goes to more than sleep. Okay, the person lies down. Unlike sleep, that person does not awaken again, does not move. That is death. So some unseeable with our human eyes thing has entered the human body, the physical body, for birth to happen, and exited the physical body for death to happen. Now, this would have been a total wonder. That would have been our first sense of divinity. Divinity, the most ancient forms of divinity is nature. People worshipped trees, stones, snakes, and if you look at Indian history, the history of religions, it might be very interesting it was very interesting for me when I came across it, certainly, to know that the first structure which was nature made and considered divine was the termite hill, wrongly called the ant hill. Valmikam. They call it the anthill, but the terminology is completely wrong. It's not an anthill, it is a termite hill. Now, termites have this ability to go down nearly 130 feet down into the earth, pick up water from there, and bring it up. The anthills or the termite hills are therefore cooled like that. Termite hills are also centers of fertility. Snake worship, sometimes snake worship is included in the in South Indian language. It is called put, mannu put. Snakes are also sometimes seen in these puttas. Termites have been around for more than 300 million years. Human beings have been around for 2 million years. Now, it is also, the termites are also called Bhutasya Prathamaja, which means one of the earliest things with Bhutasya, which came on earth, Prathamaja, one of the firstborn. Okay? Now, as people became more and more sophisticated, the methods of worship, lightning was worshipped, thunder was worshipped, any natural phenomenon was worshipped, water was worshipped, mountains were worshipped, Govardhan in the case of Sri Krishna, as you know. Now, what happened is that as people started advancing, they started building man-made structures. There are still structures found in India which are called Swayambhu, or that which is born by itself. We are now talking about the man-made structures. You might have seen that when people carve out sculptures of gods, they actually stand on the stone and carve the figures on the stone. Now, this is technically very disrespectful. The reason for this is that what comes, the figure which comes carved out, physically carved out, is called Pradima. After doing certain rites on it, it becomes a bimbam. Bimbam is it's a more refined form of Pratima. Then a more esoteric rituals are done on the bimbam, and the bimbam becomes the Vigraham. Vigraham is actually the physical human symbol of the divine. When you look at the consecration of a temple, you will see that the pujaris actually apologize to the Parabrahman, which is everywhere. It's everywhere. It cannot be contained in a small figure like a Vigraha. So they start out by saying, I am so sorry for reducing you this Sarvavyapi or omnipresent into this Vigraha. It is when this consecration of the Vigraham is concerned that the Vigraham needs the upacharams like Abhishekam, bath, Nivedyam, food, puja, worship, etc. Yeah, it is this is what makes Hinduism different from Bommakuthu or playing with dolls, because after all, Vigrahams are just big dolls in shape. Vigrahams are made of mridmayam, which is earth and earth-bound things, clay, whatever. Daru, which is wood, and loham, which is metal. These are the three types of Vigrahams. Now, that is the, and you also see that in the temple, people go around in a clockwise direction. It's called Pradakshinam. It is exactly like planets going around the sun. Please understand that India is a very naturalistic country. All these have come from nature. Now, this is the physical aspect of the temple. The Garbhagraham or the Sanctum Sanctorum is considered to be the head of the deity, going right up to the Padam, which is the Gopuram. Now, you'll find that in Wikipedia, you'll find many, many details. So I'm not going to that. I'm just going into what the temple is. The temple is a place which unites the divine and the human. You can also see that in Indian temples, ancient Indian temples were the centers of food, of employment, of agriculture, of education, of arts. You name it, almost all the arts in India have their roots in temples. The classical dances, the classical music, the percussion instruments, the wind instruments, the stringed instruments, the singing, everything is temple-based. Now, the thing for a temple to function very well is you need a certain set of worship. It can be, the simplest is the Panchopachara, which is five points of worship. There is Shodashopachara, then there are 64 forms of worship. In fact, extremely esoteric people in India, they do a one form of worship for each Sahasra Nama. That is one puja for one name of the deity, whatever it is, whether it is Devi or Shiva or Ganesha. Now, the third thing, which is very, very necessary for a temple, is the philosophy behind the temple. Okay. Now, there are 5 different koshams. The Annamaya kosham, the physical world, which is formed out of food, obviously. The Pranamaya kosham, which is the breath. The Manomaya kosham, mind. The Vijnanamaya kosham, which is knowledge. And Anandamaya kosham, which is bliss. Every place of worship, irrespective of the deity inside, irrespective of the faith it follows, is basically a very positive place. If positivity does not come out of a place of God, let me repeat it, it is not a place of God, it is a place of something else. Temples are not, let me add, prayer halls. They are places where energies, special energies are rampant. And these energies can be augmented by certain rituals. The deity and the rituals followed have to be in sync. You cannot have, for example, you cannot have a bali. You cannot cut the head of a lamb in a Saraswati's temple because her bhava is very sattvic. Now, having said that, there are certain things which every Hindu has to ask himself or herself. Elsewhere, I had said that Hindus need to convert back into Hinduism. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna that the human body is a temple. If you look at the construction of the human body also, you have Mooladhara, Prakriti, Devi, the Kundalini Shakti sleeping at the base of the spine, and you have the Sahasrara, which is the Adhomukha Shiva, the 1,000-petaled lotus. And it is when Shiva and Shakti join, you get total enlightenment. And for every Hindu, the ultimate aim of his or her life is enlightenment. The question which we have to ask ourselves is Hinduism positive or negative? Unfortunately, because most of our texts are in Sanskrit and most of us do not know Sanskrit, we get translations or worse, interpretations of translations which are much, much removed from the original. If a Hindu is positive, then he should stop using words like sacrifice. When you do certain rituals, when you even do rigorous rituals, you're doing it for the sake of something else. That is not called sacrifice, that is called discipline. Sacrifice means you're giving up something less. You're giving up something better for something less. That is extremely stupid, and I do not think that any god will be sadistic enough to demand that from his or her devotee. Now, having said that, I would like all of us to do certain simple things which we can do. When a lady is pregnant with a child, she can touch her stomach and recite Achyutananda Govinda 1008 times. This is conducive to the wellness of the child and the mother. When a baby is very tiny, you can make him or her listen to a lot of shlokas, Vedas, whatever it is, so that you have Shravya Jnanam, you hear it and learn it. And you can also, hopefully, teach Sanskrit. Now, the ancient temples were the center of learning. Ancient temples had lands which could sustain itself. Ancient temples was a society around which people managed. Everything was there. So the loyalty of the people was to the temple. Every village had a temple. Now it is no longer the case. And there are certain things which are inexplicable to me as a lay person in Hinduism. Take the example of the Kashi Vishwanath temple. In the Kashi Vishwanath temple, there is a well just behind the present Vishwanatha shrine. It is called Gyan Vapi. At the time of attack by people of other religion, the original Shivalingam was thrown into the Gyan Vapi. This Gyan Vapi is situated. This is something which I would like every person to know. This Gyan Vapi is situated within the premises of the Kashi Vishwanatha temple. Why is it that no effort has been taken till now to retrieve that bimbam? If you believe that by doing esoteric rituals on a bimbam, that deity gets, that figure gets energized, why is it that we are all silent in the fact that that Vigraham has been underwater for nearly 200 years? If we do not take care of ourselves, who's going to take care of us? Why is it that we have to define ourselves with reference to other people? Why are we reacting? Each of us have to learn to make ourselves first and foremost a temple of divinity. It does not matter who. You can believe in Devi, you can believe in Ganesha, you can believe in Krishna, you can believe in Rama. It does not matter. And when you are a true Hindu, it is completely inclusive. We are not scared people. In fact, one of the philosophies of Hinduism is this is also God, this is also God. Prahlada said that God is everywhere, which is why Narasimha came out of the pillar. So our idea is a completely inclusive idea of Hinduism. Temples are actually temples to humanity as well as divinity. Until and unless we get back our economic means to sustain temples by themselves, it's not going to work out. We are just going to talk. We are going to just talk to each other about a lot of lovely sounding things, but it's how much it's going to work practically is of course another matter. Let us hope that just as every tenet of Hinduism is pro-humanism, okay, it says dhanam dhanyam bahuputra lapam. It's good things on earth and salvation after we die. So let us hope that we come back to acknowledging our temples for what they are. Once we acknowledge that they are places of happiness, of prosperity, of peace, I'm sure temples will sustain themselves. But if we treat them as, places where you go and tell God, oh God, please, you're treating them like petition places. God, I want my child to get excellent marks. I want my daughter to get married, etc., etc., etc. I want a good job. So you're going to God only as if he's a Father Christmas who will hand out gifts. So that attitude has to change. It has to be a temple has to be a place where people go and meditate, people go and sit there quietly and think of themselves as being close to God. And each step, if you go to the temple today, well and good. If you go to the temple tomorrow, you're supposed to have at least taken at least one step closer to your journey to God. And let me hope and pray that the great divine mother gives us all of us, the Ichha Shakti, the desire to do that, the Jnana Shakti, the knowledge to do that, and the Kriya Shakti, the actual capability to do that. This is my take on temples and their significance in the daily life of an individual.
Okay, Gopi, you can go ahead with your questions.
Oh, Jai Sri Ram. Hello?
Yes?
Oh, can hear me? Oh, Jai Sri Ram. This is Virat VHS Karnataka Samvada. Dhanyavad to our special guest, Smt. Lakshmi Bayi Nalapat for enlightening us on significance of Hindu temples. There are a few questions for today. One of the question is there any difference between modern day Hindu temple and ancient Hindu temple in the building wise and architecture wise, especially with ancient temple complexes so huge and there is ecosystem built around there and developed within. So can you please share some thoughts on them? I believe you already shared some of them, but you can elaborate a little bit more on that, Lakshmi.
Well, if you have a Shivalinga under the tree, that is a temple. That was an ancient temple because what counted there was faith and the and aesthetics. Because if you take let us say you take a temple like Tanjavur, Brihadishwara temple, I think that's a temple which even if you have no faith, you should go to because the beauty of the temple is so much. They have made granite look like lace.
Yes.
It's so beautiful. Now, if the so-called modern temples or the temples which we see nowadays being built, I find that a lot of marble is used. It's very modern. Somehow, I'm not very comfortable with that, but that's a personal thing. You also have temples which are built out of 100 crores, 200 crores, 300 crores, whatever it is. The ghadana, the rule of the temple is 1/3 is for the building of the temple, 1/3 is for the upkeep of the temple, and 1/3 of the money collected or spent is for the good of the society around it. Now I find lots of temples which are taking so much money to be built, but apart from ostentation, I do not know how much they follow the rituals also, you see. So it's a very iffy question.
Okay.
What is important is the faith. What is important is faith, first of all, and then the rituals. Because, like I said, you're making God into you're reducing God into human forms in every temple. This is without fail.
Okay.
That does not mean reducing the power of God. Please, it is reducing God into human form, and at that human level, He is fully powerful.
Okay. Okay. The other question is, what is the difference between praying at home versus visiting a temple?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Actually, I prefer staying at home and praying than visiting certain temples. Because certain temples, especially the more popular ones, they're so crowded that people are saying, move, 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 which is not exactly, you don't want to stand in front of God and hear somebody saying, move. Uh, the advantage of a temple is because everybody's attention is concentrated on the deity. It helps you as a concentration aid. Vigraham, even pictures at home, like if you have pictures of gods at home, it helps you because not all of us are rishis. In fact, very few, and there are very few rishis I know. You see, most human beings are ordinary human beings, and they need some help because you're at the human level, standing. Within your human body, you're connecting to something which is superhuman.
Okay.
So in that sense, the Vigraham helps, the temple helps. You get into a mood, you hear the bells, you hear the prayers, you have the smell of the incense. So you're conditioned to worship.
So thank you, Ji. And the other question is, most of the temples used to take care of elephants or the native bulls, cows, and many other living beings. Why were they doing this earlier? Can you please say some thought on this?
Gopiji, your camera is off.
See, I'll tell you one thing. There are still temples which take care of animals. Generally, the animals are like the bulls are there in Shiva temples. The cow and the calf, because it's supposed to be auspicious, is there in every temple. And elephants are used in most temples for for the Shiveli Utsavam, whatever it is, the deity is put on top of the elephant and taken around. Now, the earlier the temple dance could feed these animals very easily. You did not have to buy fodder and things like that.
Okay.
So it was also conservation. The snake shrines in Kerala, the Sarpa cows, that is also part of ecology and environment and conservation, because nobody is supposed to take even a stick or even a dead leaf out of a cover for fear of divine anger. So then these places are still pockets of greenery, and they're wonderful. So that is Sarpakava. So we've basically been very see, because basically a Hindu does not believe that a human being is the greatest and the end all and be all of creation. There is respect for animals also.
Okay.
You find Dattatreya with 4 dogs who are supposed to be the 4 Vedas. So you
Okay.
see.
Okay, Ji. Thank you, Ji. The other question is regarding the marvelous architecture, temple architectures of ancient temples. Even today, many of these magnificent temples are tough to design and build, especially like Kailasha Temple, Madurai temples, Kanchis, Srirangam, Tanjavur, Angkor Wat, many Hindu temples, and many beautiful temples were being destroyed by the invaders over centuries. So they all were divinely breathtaking and beautiful. And what were the technologies they used in the ancient times to build such a magnificent structures?
What the technologies were, I really don't know, because sometimes I look at them and marvel at, I don't think it now in 2020, with all our technology and advancement, we can build something like that. It is just, I would say, it is total love for the work, not just of one Mutashari or the main mason, but everybody. If you look at it can only be a labor of love. And what the technology is, frankly, I do not know.
Okay. Okay. The other question is one of the many want to ask this question. The question goes like this: most of the Hindu temples are controlled by the government. Why should they be doing this? The government doing this, or shouldn't they be leaving the Hindu temples to the Hindus?
Well, let me start this by giving you an exception first.
Yes, ma'am.
In the year 1916 to, I think, 1927, a gentleman called Sir Henry Cotton, Christian, was managing the Guruvayur temple. Okay? And he did such a marvelous job that all the devotees were totally pleased with him. Now, that is the exception. Please understand. I do not think it is the business of any government to manage, mismanage any place of worship. The management of the temple has to be left to, there is an old system, there is a male koima. I mean, I am familiar with these words in my mother tongue. Okay, there are people who are responsible for what happens inside the temples. There are the acharyas, who are the pujaris, the tantris, the swamijis who control temples. And believe me, there are swamijis, there are some exceptional still living swamijis. I would say Puri Nishtalananda, the Shankaracharya of Puri is one of them. Then there is Jwalaji, and there are so many people who do not want to be mentioned, but they are still huge sources of information. Now, the structure of the temple was, you had a spiritual set of people, you had a technical set of people, you had people to manage the outside, you had people living around the temple who were financially dependent on the temple, whose lives were dependent on the temple. So they had that loyalty to the temple. Now, that I'll give you an example, for 9,000 acres of land which belonged to the Kudalmanikyam temple in Irinjalakoda in Kerala. There were 9,000 acres in the Devikulam highlands. The lands and the wealth of the temple have been removed. And the reason for this, I am very sorry to say, is the lack of unity among Hindus. Unless we really think of all temples as ours to protect, not ours to loot from, but ours to take care of. Because if the temple does well, we do well. If we have that clarity of thought, there will be no problem. But governments certainly should stay as far away from temples as they can. Any government. This is my personal opinion.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for that. And the other question is, Hindu temples has a huge wealth and getting donations from Hindu devotees a lot. And how do you think we can use for the right cause of Hindus?
See, first of all, Hindus, first of all, should stop blaming the British, the Mughals, the whatever it is. In 1947, they left this country, okay? From 1947, we've been having domestic rule. I do not want to make any kind of political statement. Let me make myself very clear. But if we cannot provide drinking water to our population, how do you expect those dispensations to be able to take care of wealth which is coming from private donors, from interested parties, from well-wishers, from whatever? Now, to do this, there have to be people who know. One of the crying shame of the actual need of Hinduism is education about Hinduism to Hindus, which we do not have. It's zero. It's close to zero. Now, there are brilliant teachers. We still have surviving manuscripts. We have so much knowledge. Okay. But the problem is that the knowledge is there. The people who need knowledge is there. We do not have a bridge between the two. Also, we need people who speak English, who can convey this knowledge internationally. Look at this COVID crisis when they say, wash your hands, wash your legs. This is something which every Indian used to do. Used to go out, come home, wash his hands and feet and face, clean his mouth, spit out water, and then enter the house. So these are all part of our ethos. Now, but we still do not have the instrument to convey this to others. So learning, definitely. Annadanam, food, basic food, that was given from the temple. These two are, of course, there are 101 other areas, but if you're talking about the two most crucial needs of Hinduism, it is these two. Okay. Because with a full stomach and education, you're well on your way to, to good places.
Thank you, ma'am. This comes to the end of the question and answers. Dhanyavad, once again, Dhanyavad, for enlightening us with all these amazing questions and significance of Hindu temples. And once again, dhanyawad to Jagdish ji, Nikunj Bhai for moderating, and the back-end team. Like without them, we couldn't able to go ahead with this program. Dhanyawad to Ashish ji, Ramesh ji, Tejas, Ishwar, Rajesh, and all the others.
Thank you so much for calling me. Jagdish, Nikunj, the team, the VHS team in Karnataka, the technicians, and all of you. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you very much.
Namaste. Thank you very much. Thank you.